Morning, and we're going to have a little go at doing some pencil drawing today, um, and doing some characterful boots. And we've all got access to boots, so it's quite a good one to have a go at doing from life as well, once you've learnt a few little tips and bits and pieces. So I'll flip over and enjoy the session. Aha, there we go. Okay, so as you can see on my board, I've just got this picture of the back of some boots. But obviously you can do the boots in any position you want. I have my pencils here, so I've chosen a 3H, a HB, and a 5B. And just a tiny bit of information just before we start about, about the different pencils and what they're what they all mean, really, if you've not done pencil drawing before and you're not familiar. HB is typically a pencil that you would have, around the workplace or at school. It's just, it's just a standard a pencil that's not really dark and not really light. It's really bang smack in the middle, which is why it's H and a B together. Okay, so if I apply pressure with it, we'll get, this kind of a mid-tone. Now, obviously, there's a scale. So that one's in the middle. And then H, all the numbers in the H. So you can go 1H, 2H, 3H, 4H, and you keep going up. The higher up the scale it gets, the lighter the pencil gets, because it's really hard. So H is an indication of hardness, and the number on there is an indication of how hard it is. So obviously you can go all the way up to 7H and it will get lighter and it's harder, it's more compact. So we get a lighter tone. And then the same is true of a B pencil. So HB, so B, I've just slot this one in here just so you can see I'm not going to use that one now. B is the next one up from HB. So if we look at the pressure here, it's just slightly darker, and it works its way because it gets softer the higher up the scale with B. So I've got a 5B here, so that's pretty soft. It's pretty soft, and so it will be pretty dark. So you can see the difference there between the 3H and the 5B. So I've got 4 tones in there. We will also use the paper to show like the very lightest, if there's a white area or a very light area in there. And so we just have to decide how, some people will just use 1 or 2 pencils and then they'll vary, because what I can do with this is this 5B. It is softer enough. I can just vary the pressure. So that's me using a 5B a bit more lightly. Some people are just very comfortable using 1 pencil and just varying the pressure. And other people like to swap about and think about what, so if I use, this is a 3H. Now, obviously I can press much harder. It's not going to be as dark as this 5B. But I can vary the depth of the pencil that I'm using. So you can decide whether you want to swap whether you want to swap pencils in. All right, I've also got like a little rubber which has just got you can sharpen the edge, just keep that clean, just to rub out any bits, because I'm working quite small today. But yeah, so really when we're looking at a picture that's if we want to represent something in these tones of in the pencil, excuse me, then all we need to do is think about how deep some of these tones are, how dark, which is the darkest and which is the lightest, all the way up the scale. And that's why I've just drawn this little scale really here, because if you're not sure, you can always try and match the colour to something. Now the darkest is much easier, is the easiest, because we can see the very darkest and we can use our darkest pencil or our hardest pressure to replicate that. And I often put those darks actually in first, so that I can see where those shadows are. And then you can work your way up. So people will say, well, what happens if I've got brown boots? Something like this. And I will just say, select a tone that you think of pencil that you think will represent the brown. And sometimes that is one of the slightly lighter ones. So I might use a HB for that, for representing the browns, and use my 5B for the darks. And then as you're getting lighter, the H or the less pressure, I might use some, you know, some different mark making and just pop that in. And then obviously reserving the light areas like you would do with watercolor, really. So I'm going to have a go drawing these out. So all we need to think about really, so I'm going to sketch it with my HB. So I would tend to go for the lightest, drawing it in the lightest way. So because what you can do is, if you want to get more confident with your marks, once you've got your composition mapped in with the proportions as well as you can, then you can, you know, you can make those lines darker if you want to. So all I'm looking at here is the position of the shoes, you know, how far across I want that to fill my piece of paper. And obviously I'm swapping like for like here. So I've got a very similar paint picture size to the actual picture that I've printed off. Now, obviously that's because it's easier on camera to do that, so you can see what I'm doing with the whole picture. But obviously if you're transferring a smaller picture to large, you'll have to double the size, treble the size, whatever size, you know, and think about those key things. I'm going to use my pencil as a guide to help me with some of the angles of the boots and things like that, so I can just get those in, and I will transfer that directly to my paper to just really help. Now you can do that whether you're doing something from a distance or not. You just hold your pencil further away, but I can actually, you know, directly move that. I can also use it to measure out a general idea for the measurement of my boots. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to make sure, because one of the things that happens quite often is people like start with one boot and get really carried away with that one boot, and then there's not enough room for the other one. So I always put a little bit of a map of how, you know, where the outer edges are going to come, so that I know I can fit those boots on. Okay, so I'm going to leave a little bit of space like in here for there. Now these are two together, so that's easier. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to like make a mark for the inside, look at proportionally where this one comes to, so we can see there's about that much gap. I mean, we can change it, as I said. And again, I can transfer this fairly directly, but you could double your size or whatever. I'm just going to pop the top of this boot in. It's a bit wider than you think it is sometimes. It's interesting to look. So I can even actually look at the angle if I want to, you know, and pop a little mark in there. You can use a brush or another pencil to do this. I just, you know, you can do it more lightly. I'm gonna have to do mine a little bit darker so you can see it, but just get those. And again, you know, a sketch is a very interesting thing, because some people's sketches are very loose marked, other people's are quite tight, and it doesn't matter. So part of the sketching process is finding one that suits you. Mine's quite loose actually, my sketching. Here we go. So again, you know, we're looking at the size. I'll use that pencil to measure. So if I went straight down in a straight line, it touches the end, doesn't it, of this boot. You can see it's not quite, it just goes out slightly from 90 degrees. So again, just going to put that there. Obviously, my soles will come out a bit further. So, you know, you can even then, you know, make sure that you get the other one in as well. Make sure we've got these same similar thing. Okay, yeah. Yeah, we can see that, can't we? Same again, you know, because sometimes the width of them, depending on how they are. Just look at transfer. Oops, you can't see what I'm doing. The transferring across the angle, because it comes down somewhere, so I want that to come down. Sometimes it's a bit further than you think it is, actually a bit wider or a bit narrower. See, that one needs to come out slightly. And again, you know, we can just put some of these key bits in. so that we know that we're going to get all of this boot onto the paper, onto the page. So what I might do is kind of just have a little look there just to make sure this fits on. It should do, because we've started, you know, nearer to the middle and working outwards, so we're not going to kind of start them off too much to the left or to the right. That's why finding a central point is really good. But if you look at this, where this end of this boot goes, we get this angle in. So again, we've got this angle going this way to about here. So again, we can pop that in there to that to fold. And then obviously from there, we can measure out these other little folds and follow the angle of those, which is quite good. And then we can go across, look, straight across. So this is an easy way of doing it if you're not sure how all these angles work, and let it, you just use one bit. So we've got this fold here going round, got this other one coming round here. So all we have to do then is go outwards like that. Okay, so if we want to put a little bit of this boot in just to get a bit of can start to kind of draw these folds in, follow them round. That's all I'm doing. Down we go. It goes into the boot bit, and then we've got this fold coming out. Comes on there. Got this one coming out here. And then we've got this part of the shoe here. And then again, we can follow the angle of this. If you see, it's actually, you know, I'd say about, I'm not sure what degree that is, I'm not entirely sure, maybe it's about 45, so it's about half of a right angle. It goes outwards. Look, so this is really helpful, because I just start to draw that line down. This is where it can really kind of correct the vision of what we're actually seeing there. To bring this boot round. And then the sole of the boot as well. And if you're not sure about the depth even, you can look, that's quite pointed there, you can look and see what the depth of that is to the sole as well. Okay. You know, obviously we can put some of the finer details on in a little bit. So we're just trying to really make sure, this is, we've got a few more folds in there, we can just get those in just to give us an idea of where everything is. Okay, so these boots are coming together now, so let's get some you know, let's get some of the points drawn in at this side as well. So again, I would look to a point. I might go to there with this one, and I might look at the angle of this one as well. So I'm going to take this to this fold, just keep the angle if I can to there, and then again we can, you know, we can join some of these. We can generally see that if a bit's not a bit longer than another bit, well, then we can do that. There's a bit of a fold. There's a fold here. So that's where we've gone to, isn't it, to there. And then again, you know, do the next tiny fold if you want to. That helps. Come out. Another fold there, look. And then another fold down, all the way down, look. You can either bring it, we've gone to there, we can either bring it to here, or you can go all the way down. I might actually just go all the way down with that, so I can see it. I'm following it down that way. There's a bit of an angle to it, so I'm going to pop the bottom of it coming over the shoe there. It's, you know, we're just using one bit to help us fold. It's very helpful when you get all these folds actually to help us with another one. And again, we've got all these other bits, so you can continue to do that if you want. I've got another fold here, so I'm following that. I'm just literally following that line. Now, if I was drawing this, I would draw it by eye, but I would generally try and get a few of these points put in first, just to help myself. It doesn't take away from the joy of the process. Some people will actually put that into a grid. If you really, really, you know, want to, you can put like a grid across it and draw lines in, but actually I find that does sometimes take the joy out of it, because it becomes quite you know, about almost filling in bit by bit. But if you really find the drawing bit difficult, it may be a place to start. But I think just if you use each bit as a guide and follow these angles, it should give you some success anyway. Okay, so then obviously we've got this other little bit going up here. I've got that there, that's in the shoe, isn't it? So I want to go get this point in. Got to work out where it is. I think it's in that one actually. So this one, you can't see as much of it as the other one, can you? And then again, let's get this, you know, get this to the edge and the angle. There we go. We're just following the angle all the way around the outside here, look. And we can adapt it, you know, we can adapt it as we go. Okay, and then again, so we've gone to like here around this corner. You can then go again, you know, follow this next little section here on the inside of the sole, and, you know, just pop that down so we know we're coming all the way around the corner. So much easier. And you know, again, watch the angle. So have a little look at the angle of the sole of the shoe here. Really, really helpful to be able to use this as a guide. And then we've got the fronts. Now you can then start to put the sole on if you want. You can just follow the curve around. So I always think it's helpful to use something to follow the curve round. And obviously we've got two sections to the sole. We've got this curvy one, and then we've got the one at the bottom. So if you want to even do that separate, that helps, you can. Okay, right, so we've got the two outer sections of our boots there. So what's left really is the inside. Now I would be tempted again, and so you can do this in sections if that helps measuring it out, or you can do it all to here and then make it so you get the length. So I think I might do that, and then I'm just going to draw it in myself. So all I'm going to do with my pencil, following the angle, it's fairly straight is that, to be fair, to where the point comes out anyway. So I'm going to pop that there, pop my marker here, where that comes out. And then what I can do is follow this down, look. And again, it doesn't matter if you're making some errors, you've got a rubber for later, but just have a go at getting it in. And then we're following this out. And then of course we've got the leather that comes round, and you can see that over the back. You can fill that one in. So yes, that comes out. And then obviously we've got from here, we can measure down, it goes in a little bit. We can measure down, and the angle, look. So look how that comes out at an angle, and you wouldn't think that, would you? So from that point, bring that angle out to here. And then look, we can just get the back of the boot in like that. Okay, and then here we go. So here what we can do, look, once you've got that there, you can then bring it round a little bit, and then as we go we can get some of this in. So this is what I was saying to you before. What we can do is bring this into two sections if you want. There is a little gap there though, isn't there, around this top? So there's almost 3 sections, but it's really dark shadow. Then we've got this section here, you know, that's, and then the tread on the bottom of the boot. So I'm going to separate that out so that I proportionally can see. So that's quite wide coming around here. And then there is a little bit on the bottom, so you can either come back to that when you've got a bit more time, or you can work into it now and look at the tread. And obviously we've got this gap, and then this. And if you're not sure, again, if you want to see how long this back heel is, you know, it's wider than we think, isn't it? Look how wide that is. So I haven't drawn that, so I need to bring this right out a bit more. And obviously this is a thicker tread at the bottom here. So we can work, I'm going to work into that a little bit more as we go. And there we go. So we're getting there with these boots quite significantly. This goes up a little bit at the back as well. Okay. So this boot, the same thing. So what we're doing really is we're just kind of getting the proportions in, getting everything into the picture to make sure it fits, and then we can really work into with all the shades and the tones after that. Much easier if you've got a guide. So let's have a look again. So that's again quite long down to this middle point here, and it comes actually out that way slightly, which is a surprise, isn't it? Slightly. So although this comes out, we've got quite a few little okay, and then again we've got the lean on this particular boot and how long it is. That comes that way a little bit. And again, you know, we can follow this. This has got a slight, comes around slightly for the heel. All right, so there we go. So that isn't as hard, is it, as you think it is? And this is the thing, it's kind of just demystifying that we use one part to help us with another. And you know what, hey ho, the more sketches you do, the more confident you'll be feeling, because we're just looking, it's all about observation. It really is key. And if you haven't done much observation before, how can you expect actually to be able to, you know, get it right? It's like anything, it's like riding a bike. The more practice you do, but it's great. It's a great way of doing it, and it's really quite relaxing as well, actually. So I'm just following this tread, a bit of a wobble on here, look. And then, you know, same again, we can get some of these treads on here, up there. And then it comes out here. I'm going to put those details on in a bit. So we have a really, really good start now. A really, really good start. So what we can do then is to start looking for some of the details. So some of the things I might look for, first of all, are things like where the stitching are, because that's quite light, isn't it? So I'm going to reserve like things like where the light is hitting for the very lightest, like on here, some of the top there. I'll keep that lighter. The stitching is more brown, but we need to keep we need to actually keep some light between it. So what I'm going to do is get those bits in, because I want those to be and you can represent this with any of the brush strokes, the pencil dabs or strokes that you want. Okay, so I'm just going to pop that in the top, and then I am going to bring this down. So again, if you're not sure about the stitching, what you can do is decide how far in to start it. So you can even do this again. This needed to come out, didn't it? So there, it joins up, isn't it, there? And again, you can, if you want to, because there is a dark line this side where the shadow is, you can actually pop that line in the other side if that helps to decide where it's going to go and the shape of it, because it comes out a little bit, doesn't it? And then where this fold comes over, we can bring it in here, but I'm going to put the fold in so I can see it. So this, sometimes you start one thing and you think, actually, I'm going to do some, get all these other bits in, so that will help me. So I'm just going to bring in just the shape of where this fold is here, and then where this one comes out here, this big one, this big deep one here. There we go. Yes, we've got these big bits here, haven't we, where they go over the top there. And it dips in, and another weavy one here, where we get the light actually that side, don't we? And in there. So what this will help us do is we can follow this now over the top, as though it was going, you know, where the fold is. And pop the other one in, and we can curve it round. I'm just using a series of little marks, but you do what you want. You don't have to, you know, you can show, represent it how you want. And again here now, so now we've got this fold in here, we can, that kind of goes all the way over the top, doesn't it? But we can wibble it. There we go. So there we go. So we're already creating, with some of the shape of this, we're creating, you know, some of the movement in the fabric. So again, you know, you can either do it both sides if you want to. I'm going to quickly just do the same thing, get a few of those in. But before I move over to this side, I'm just going to finish off popping in a few of these folds. Okay. Okay, so I've got a few of the bits in there. You know, we're starting to pop in some of the quite a few of these details now without even thinking about it. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip over now to my 5B, which is my dark one. I'm going to start to pop in some of the deep dark layers between the shade, where you get these pockets between the leather or between the fabric, you know, where it is very, very dark, because you get this shadow cast. So I'm going to pop some of those, start to get some of those in. You can do that how you want. You can literally colour them in, or you can just kind of roughly shade over. And if I was working big, you'd almost get this cross hatching here, where I might just, you know, just use this kind of style, especially if I was wanting to work quickly. But because I'm working small, I'm actually literally just going to shade it in. So we've got to have a look out, you know, which are really dark. Or you can use your pencil as well to vary it. So like, say this one's darker, press harder, and just these bits that are casting a bit of a shadow, you can, you know, you're not tied. So it's just observation, having a look where you can see these really dark bits. Some are not going to be as dark as others. Down this bottom, yeah, where we get. So the other thing you can do is start to, you know, if you've got some shape that you want to, that's in there, you can start to pull that round, almost like this kind of a motion, to create some of the shape in there. It's something that you can do. So I'm just varying the pressure to, you know, get these different areas of shadow. Some, you know, we've still got some darkness, but generally in the deepest fold is where you get that. But we've still got quite a bit of shadow in there, haven't we, really? So and then of course don't forget to leave these bits where you get this highlight as well, because we can soften that down with another bit of shade and leave some of it white as well. So but it's just making sure you leave that, and that's quite a challenge to start with. Now you might also want to recreate some of the pattern of the boot as well. Like I said, you can just use different different kinds of shading. You can, you know, just go all in with shading. You can even smudge it a little bit with the you know, with the softer colors. But really it's just about getting used to all of the Interesting way to do it. So I might loosen that off there because we've got some of that nice soft leather coming round, whereas this is much more of a smooth bit here. So we've got a light bit here, and then we've got a little bit darker in the middle, and a bit more here, haven't we? But you'll start to see, you know, these where these really shade bits, it will make it look very sunken, but when we start to even out with some of the other shading, it will be fine. So keep picking out the bits that you can see, you know, just working into it, having a lovely time. Actually, you'll really enjoy getting pulled into it. And that's why we try and plan out the composition first, because then you can really enjoy getting into the detail without having to think about how the rest of it works. Okay. And we're comparing how dark is this in comparison to this. Well, actually, it's a similar darkness, isn't it? Because this bit's in the shade over here. So again, you know, there's not much light in there. So I'm going to shade that. I can't really see the texture of the, I'm just going to be mindful not to go into this area with the stitching on. But I am going to kind of shade it without too much texture on here. Get some of these dark areas in. And obviously there's a few areas of light there, so I'm just going to softly go around that, making sure that I'm, you know, you can use some of your so again we've got some quite soft areas here until it curves around there. It's not quite as dark as it there was these really dark bits. So again here, look where these folds come out is we've got some areas that are slightly lighter and some that are quite dark. There we go. Okay, so I'm only going to do one boot today to show you, and obviously you can apply that to the other. So still on these dark areas, it's more dark at the top really, and then in these folds, and it gets lighter towards the bottom. So I've got to decide, you know, what tone. Now I could, if I wanted, to swap over, but I'm not going to swap over to a lighter colour just yet because it is quite dark. but you can vary the darkness, because you'll see there are hot spots where it's slightly darker and others where it's not quite as dark. Where you get a bit more of a, you know, a fold in the fabric, make that darker, and where it's not, you can just go really much lighter, or kind of cross hatch if you want. You make some cross hatching in there. And again, you know, there's some lighter areas on the outside of this boot, so you can almost just get those in there, make sure we can see them. I'm going to move into the stitching a bit more to make it a bit more precise. That's with the thing with the pencil, is you can really, you know, you can really work into that. Now I've left these a little, they look a bit scruffy at the minute, but it's because I haven't decided how dark the tone is going to be yet. So before I make a decision, and while I'm thinking that through, I'm just leaving it for the moment and just working on these darker areas, and I'll come back and review that. You can always do that with pencil. Come back and review it. If you're not sure what tone, have a go. Just come back. So again, I'm just going to keep working into these. Quite dark in there. Put this bit under there, we've just done that, haven't we? Okay, yeah, so there's a tiny bit in front there. So we've got a small amount here. And it's kind of quite, you know, it's where the leather's maybe been a bit scratched or something. So you can actually replicate that with your marks. So I have to pop some of these marks on, make them a bit, make the character, so it's not just shading, so you've got a few of these bits and pieces on here. Okay. And then I'm just going to get this really deep, dark bit of in the shadow of the shoe here, because we've got a bit of a gap, got a bit of light between it, if you can see that. So I'm just going to edge where this sole is. And that kind of comes around. There's a bit of a light bit there as well, isn't there? So make sure we leave the light area as well. Okay, so it's starting to come together now. So this is where I might think, okay, what do I want to leave light, dark, and what do I want to leave light? So I'm going to go for my H now, my 3H, that lighter pencil. So here I want to leave these top bits light, but actually some of these other areas are not very bright, so just where the lines are maybe. So what I need to do is I just want to get some of these areas in. There's a bit of a thing there. So I'm just going to, and this is a way of kind of, with this a little bit of the, you know, making some linear marks. You're not filling in the whole thing, but you can make them directional to, you know, show some of the shape. So again, I want to keep the top highlighted, wherever these lines, you know, wherever these highlighted areas are, where they stick out and the light hits them, and then between them, I'm just going to kind of create some shade and some directional marks there. So by the time we've finished, so this again, you know, we've got some areas of light, but again around it there are some, and I can, you know, make some curvy lines to create that shape as well. But leave the very light ones, and you can always, if you think, oh, I've not left some of it as light as I wanted to, you can always go back and rub a little bit out. Okay, so again I want some Actually, there is a darker line in there. I'm just going to pop that in. I can see the edge there. Just pop that in. And that one's got the one, I think, that's got quite a bit of light on it. So I'm only going to, I'm going to cross hatch a lot of that. Put some of this again down here. So again, I'm working into this a little bit with some more linear shapes, keeping the very lightest. And then the same on this, keeping the edge a bit lighter. Same in the bottom, we've got a little bit of highlight there, haven't we? Okay, so same at the top, there's a bit light up there. Just this corner here. And then the very top of the boot is quite dark, so I'm going to go back there. Like that. Get these in. Okay, so we're really, so again, you know, we're getting a really nice, we're getting a really nice feel for that. So what you can do is have a look at your picture and just see, is there anything I want to, do I want to, is there anything unbalanced over my picture? And I'm just deciding I want to get a little bit of, show this shadow at the bottom of this shoe here. Really, I just want to darken in between the stitching slightly. And then I can start to put in my sole of my shoe. So just going to swap back actually to my H. I'm just going to just pop a small amount of shading where this boot stitching is. So it's not quite as bright as the other areas. Just follow it down over and under the stitching as well, which will help. So we get that shape with it there. That's a bit better. Okay, I'm happy with that now. Because it's brown, isn't it? You know, it's not really like, whereas these are the lightest areas. We want those to pop out there. Okay, so if you're not sure, go for a HB or something on the sole. So we've got this very dark bit which we've already put in, and then this is much lighter. So I was going to put some of these really interesting lines that we've got in that are, where these shoes are actually being very well worn. And we get these lovely, like almost very weathered parts of the sole there, and that's enough. I don't really need to put much more shading in there. And then obviously we've got this darker bit on the sole, so it's not the very darkest, but it's quite dark at this front here. So then we can be a little bit more particular, if you're wanting to be a bit more particular, get some of those teeth in that are on the bottom of the foot where the sole is, and that's an ideal time to do it. And then you can extend your shading just up slightly, because it just does come up slightly. So I won't do it really dark, but I'll do it dark enough to know that it's part of the sole as well, the bottom of the sole. And then just again, as we've said, just in between this, it's these soles, it is a slightly darker colour, but not as dark as the bottom. So I'm just going to get some of that shading in there. And there we go. So that's one of those boots. And you can see, obviously, I'll put that one right there. You know, it's just my representation of it in small. But you can do, you know, you can, I mean, you could keep working on it forever. You've just got to decide, get to the point where you think, right, that's a really, you know, I'm really happy with that observational sketch for today, and then just leave it and then try another one, because it will always come out slightly different. But what you can do is you can, it's always good to go round and decide, you know, maybe a little bit, you see, that's, I'm looking there, there's maybe, that needs to be slightly darker in that little fold there. So there'll be little bits that you think, I'm just going to make sure that there's balance here, because the balance bit is the important bit when you're doing this. That you've got, you know, that you have the balance in your across your whole picture. So, you know, are the bits that are dark, are they dark enough across the picture? Have I left enough light areas? Do I need to tone down anything? And that really shouldn't take too long. Just to do that. But anyway, I hope you've really enjoyed doing that, because it's just something a little bit different, and it's really good just to just shade some of these in this side. Just to have a go at doing something, you know, doing some observational drawing is really good for the soul, actually, because it can suck you in for hours. So I would say just really enjoy, and if you can pick your pencils up again, then, you know, have a little notebook, you know, these little small ones, then absolutely, that'd be absolutely brilliant. I'm just going to switch back and say goodbye. So I hope you enjoyed that, and happy sketching with whatever pencils you're using. All right, see you next time. Bye. Thank you. Bye.